My name is Councillor Yvonne Cleave and I am the Mayor of Wigan, and I have great pleasure in once again welcoming you all to the Edge for the Council meeting. Can I remind you all that this meeting must be finished by 7 p.m. because a church service will commence at 7:30 in this room. I now ask the Reverend Will Gibbons to offer prayer.
So let us pray. Lord God, we give you thanks for the work of Wigan Council, and we ask that you would continue to use our councillors to bring recovery and hope to the borough of Wigan. Would you bless our local council, we pray, with good relationships, strong accountability, sound decisions, effective budgeting, and servant hearts for the good of our community and the sake of those on its margins. We pray especially for all who are affected by the pandemic, through illness, or isolation or anxiety, that they may find restoration and relief. We pray for our NHS workers, that you would fill them with courage and the strength to persevere. And finally, we pray for our council meeting this evening and all councillors serving the borough of Wigan, that by integrity of word and action, they may uphold justice, truth, and peace. And your will be done through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Can I remind members of the need to respect each other, and I will continue to chair these meetings fairly and to show impartiality. Likewise, members of the public are welcome, but should be aware that they should not interrupt the proceedings, as disruption may result in removal from the public area. The rules of conduct for the meeting have been circulated in advance of the meeting. I also need to stress the correct use of the following rules. 11.12, points of order. A member may at any time raise a point of order related to an alleged breach of these council rules of procedure or the law. The member must indicate the rule or law and the way in which he or she considers it has been breached. As Mayor, I will hear the member immediately and my ruling on the matter will be final. 11.13, personal explanation. A member may at any time request myself as the Mayor to allow them to make a personal explanation relating only to some material part of an earlier speech by that member which may appear to have been misunderstood in the present debate. My ruling on the admissibility of a personal explanation will be final. I will now move to the agenda.
Apologies for absence. Excuse me. Leader, Councillor Molyneux, Councillor Anderton, Councillor Crosby, Councillor Ellis, Councillor Hodgkinson, Councillor Holland, Councillor Hulton, Councillor McLaughlin. Sorry, apologies, Councillor Hulton's arrived. Apologies. Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Parkinson, Councillor Smith, Councillor Sykes, Councillor Whittingham, Councillor Cullen, Councillor Marsh, and Councillor Aldred.
Thank you.
Have we got any further apologies? Councillor Hulton? Yeah. Thank you.
Minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of May 2021. I will move the acceptance of these as a correct record. Deputy Leader.
To second, Madam Mayor.
No amendments have been received on the minutes. Can I put the minutes to the vote? The vote is carried. Mayor's announcements. Queen's birthday list. I wish to congratulate the following on receiving the MBE. Shirley Southworth from Fir Clempt for services to the community in Wigan during COVID-19, and Stephen Atherton, originally from Wigan, a field worker at the Justice and Peace Commission for services to the community in Liverpool. I am also delighted to chair the winners of the Queen's Award for Voluntary Services being the Brick, at Wigan and the bridge at Lee. Greater Manchester again had the highest number of winners across the UK with 22 nominations. Congratulations to all the recipients on these prestigious awards. Armed Forces Day, the 26th of June 2021. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19 restrictions, this event was cancelled and replaced with a virtual event that could be followed on the Council's Facebook page. Thanks go to the officers who made this possible. We hope that the lifting of the restrictions will permit the remaining events to take place, those being VJ Day, Battle of Britain and Remembrance Day. Great Britain at the Tokyo Olympics. I would like to wish the following athletes from the borough all the best at the Olympics in Tokyo. Dan Bibby for the Rugby Sevens, Ella Toone, Women's Football, Emily Borthwick, Athletics, High Jump, Harry Coppell, Athletics, Pole Vault, Keely Hodgkinson, Athletics for the 800 metres, and Greg Warburton, Wheelchair Basketball. Let's hope that we have some medals to report on at the next meeting. Lawyers in Local Government Annual Awards. Can I report that Wigan Council's Legal Services team have won the prestigious Lawyers in Local Government Innovation Award 2021 in respect of the virtual courtroom, which was created during the pandemic to allow hearings to be held virtually. This is a national award. Declarations of interest. The monitoring officer has provided advice to all members and relevant guidance has been issued. Members are asked to consider relevant interests for the purpose of this meeting, and if there are any interests, members must leave the room during the relevant item. Please fill out the form on page 27 of your agenda and return this to Christine at the end of the meeting. Update from Cabinet portfolio holders. I invite Councillor Paul Prescott to speak at this point on the government planning policy. Councillor Prescott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, in 2020, the government published a white paper called Planning for the Future, which set out its proposals to change the planning system in England. Wigan Council welcomed certain elements of the paper, which offered greater emphasis on design, but raised concerns on the removal of the opportunities for local and democratic involvement in the planning system process. It was announced in the May 21st Queen's speech that new laws would be enacted to modernise the planning system in England. It's expected the bill will come before Parliament in the autumn. As a result of the radical reforms proposed by the government, we have significant concerns about the potential implications of those proposed reforms. The emphasis of the proposals to reform the planning system is centred on increasing the number of homes to be built. But planning is about much more than simply increasing housing numbers by speeding up decisions. Good planning is about achieving a balance of many competing interests and delivering sustainable development. Development needs to be focused on sustainable locations where the need to travel is reduced, active travel such as walking and cycling is enabled, and there is a good access to public transport. This was an opportunity for the planning reforms to put suitable developments and climate change at the heart of their proposals, but unfortunately that opportunity has been missed. Of particular concern for us are the proposals to put all areas of land into 3 designated categories: growth areas suitable for sustainable development, renewable areas suitable for development, and protected areas. The categorisation is very likely to become very contentious and does not reflect the complexities of some sites where more than one category may be appropriate. So, for example, town centres, which often have conservation areas and listed buildings that need to be protected, but are also locations where renewal and growth may be appropriate. The emphasis of the proposals is on community engagement at the local preparation stage and not through the planning process. This means that once land is designated in the local plan, any further opportunity for public engagement will be significantly reduced. The proposals will also significantly reduce the role of the planning committees, which will result in less democratic scrutiny and less accountability. This will, due to the front-loading of decision-making to the local plan stage. In my opinion, the White Paper totally fails to recognise the important role of planning committees in the democratic process. Areas identified for growth in the White Paper indicates that outline planning permission would automatically be granted for the principle of development. In areas identified for renewal, there would be a statutory presumption in favour of development, consent being granted through either the prior approval process or via a new and faster planning application process, whatever that means. The government suggests that only protected areas will come forward through the established and familiar planning process. All of this is being done, Madam Mayor, in the name of cutting red tape. The government has for some time now promoted the myth that the planning system slows down house building, without any evidence to support that assumption. In fact, members, 9 out of 10 applications are approved by councils. And what is also true, that over hundreds of thousands of homes given planning permission still remain unbuilt. And that shows that the problem probably lies elsewhere. If you want more houses built quicker, encourage the build out of those existing approved permissions and support a process that includes greater consultation with communities, councils, as well as developers. Therefore, Madam Mayor, this Council, having raised these issues through the White Paper consultation, along with many of the local authorities of all political denominations across the country, but all to no avail. It is therefore Wigan Council's intention to seek to liaise with local MPs to protect the rights of our residents and to ensure that they retain their democratic right to a voice in the whole of the planning process. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. I invite Councillor Raymond to speak at this point on the replacement of my account and report it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak, and good afternoon, everyone. Madam Mayor, our contract with Agilysys Digital for the previous My account expired on 31st of March this year. The expiration of the contract was seen as a real opportunity and allowed the Council to re-evaluate and establish what was needed from a user and local authority point of view. Whilst the products were fit for purpose at the early stages of their development, technical advances began to demonstrate a lack of flexibility that prevented the progress that we wanted for our residents. Feedback from resident surveys identify common themes and pinch points, helping us to determine what our residents expected from a modern digital service. An RIC Task and Finish Group report also highlighted frustrations with the reported and provided key recommendations for improvements. The group were established through Confident Council Scrutiny Committee and involved a cross-party group of elected members. Following extensive market research and a lengthy procurement process, Jadu were awarded the contract, a leader in their field, who are well-respected and forward-thinking company with a high number of local authorities as their customers. The new software provides us with a sophisticated forms package, a customer portal, and a back-office system. The investment in the new software supports our digital strategy and our pledges, which we've made to our residents. The new software will enable us to be in control of our online services by building in-house and allowing us to respond to feedback without the need to go through third-party suppliers. We'll be able to create simple and easy to access, easy to use digital process which will ease frustrations and produce less errors. It will remove barriers for our customers by not enforcing them to create a My account with us for each digital transaction. However, signing up is simple and easy to follow and does bring with it added benefits. The new system will enable us to build forms which are fully compatible on a variety of devices and browsers, allowing for a more on-the-go experience. Our people will be kept more informed by automated status updates at key stages in their inquiry history. We'll be able to meet accessibility standards, ensuring that as many people as possible can access online services, and our designs are more inclusive. The new system will allow us to fully embrace user-centered designs We'll also be able to reassess back office system and reduce duplicity where possible. The new members' inquiry system has been built to meet the recommendations made by the RIC Task and Finish Group. And has gone through a full consultation with a cross-party group of councillors. It has been a fantastic piece of collaboration between officers from both customer and digital services and elected members. So far, councillors have been provided with support from a digital buddy, and engagement to date has been fantastic. Over the past 12 months, RIC generated an average of 655 inquiries per month. Since its launch on 21st of June 2021, exactly a month ago, the new members' inquiry system has seen members submit 760 councillor inquiries and 99 MP inquiries. Once the new system is embedded, members will be given the opportunity to feedback on their experience of what is working well and what needs improvement. Residents have been asked to sign up to a new My account to view their council tax and housing benefit accounts. Since launching the new My account back in March this year, we have seen 46,000 active users. It is important to note that it is not always necessary to create a My account to access some services, as our web pages have also been developed to ensure that customers can access what they need easily from our website. And Madam Mayor, now that restrictions are beginning to lift, the Council is keen to undertake user testing with our residents and get their feedback. This will build on the success of the user testing held with councillors earlier this year. The aspiration is to include partner services and increase the channels in which our residents can raise a case with us. For example, by social media, voice recognition, chatbots, and increasing digital engagement through a secure channel by which our people are familiar and comfortable with. Finally, can I take this opportunity to thank the digital team for their hard work and dedication so far, and thank the Task and Finish Group and Confident Council Scrutiny Committee for their work and input. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Raymond. I invite Councillor Reedy to speak at this point on inspiring healthy lifestyles returning back to the Council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I begin, I just want to make a point about yourself. Don't get worried. That throughout the last, since you came into office, the comments I've had from the community and people who you've visited really embrace what you're trying to do out there and being professional and caring, but also they're seeing things getting back to normal, that they're seeing you. So I just wanted to make that comment that it's been really gratified out there for people. So I think you need to know that. On the 1st of April, we brought IHL back into the council. And what I want to really talk about is not only IHL staff, but all our council staff and the work that they've done in the last 18 months and redeployment, changing working practices, and really doing that in a massive way and working as one Wigan. So when we looked at bringing IHL back in, I spoke to staff before the takeover and after, and naturally anybody who knows working in the workplace, it's very difficult when you've got change. There's a worrying time for your family, for your income, and we wanted to really make them feel comfortable about that. And also, that they felt comfortable coming back over to the council and the needs they do. So some people got uplifted in the wages because that's what it needed doing in certain areas. We've got a real staff shortages in lots of areas. So that put added pressure onto the organisation. And as Councillor Cunliffe have known, a lot of the IHL staff was transferred into the care sector to help out in care homes. And some of them people want to stay there afterwards, and that became a problem for us. But the work that they did throughout that time was unbelievable. But now they've come back into the council, we're asking them for their views on the way we move forward with things. And speaking to them afterwards now, from when they first came in, they're really embracing the one Wigan kind of model and really enjoying where they're coming on it. We've got some really exciting projects at Pennington and Ayr and our parks, and we're really going to put some investment in, but we're going to do that with staff and taking staff with us. So it's a really important time. It's an important time that we work with staff and really embrace that, because they're embodiment of everything that we do. And I know everybody in this room, no matter what party you're in, really encourages that kind of thing that we staff. So from today, I wanted to just send that message out. So massive thank you to all our staff, but also the IHL staff coming over, they're back into the Wigan family. And I think we all look at the news and everybody's lifting sanctions. This is nowhere from being over. the COVID issue and the problems with it, and the rates are going up. So it's going to be a rocky few months. I think from elected members and the members of the public, they've got to have some real patience because we're really under pressure at the council at the moment. So I think that's got to be taken on board, and I know we're going to get further messages from that. So it's something we all got to do, and that's going to be countrywide. But it's just that final message of saying thank you to our staff and thank you to the staff coming over on One Wigan. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Reader. I invite the Deputy Leader to speak at this point on the Parliamentary Ombudsman findings of maladministration by the DWP in respect of the WASPI campaign.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In November 2016, this council unanimously supported the campaign of the WASPI Women, the Women Against State Pension Inequality. And it's a fight that's been going on for many, many years. And it affects 3.8 million women in this country who were born in the 1950s. So in terms of this borough, it affects many thousands of women living in this borough. And part of the inequality that was brought about was that in the mid-90s, the government decided to try and equalise the pension age for men and women. And so a programme was drawn up over a period of time to gradually move to that situation where pension age was equalised. But then in 2011, the government accelerated that process, putting many women in the position that, having worked all their lives, were not able to retire and meet their plans for retirement. And so it's fitting that this week, the Parliamentary and Health Ombudsman has determined that DWP had a finding of maladministration against them. Because these women, according to the Ombudsman, should have been informed over 2.5 years earlier than they actually were. The Ombudsman's report is still being in the further investigations because, having found a maladministration, there now needs to be a determination as to what level of compensation, if any, those women will get. And so, having supported unanimously the WASPI campaign, I think it's appropriate that this council welcome the Parliamentary Ombudsman's findings and support, and give every encouragement we can and support to our WASPI women to ensure that they get adequate compensation for the losses over the many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Now we move on to constitutional issues. Appointment of statutory and non-statutory co-opted members to the Council's committees. The Council is requested to approve the nominations for the appointment of statutory and non-statutory co-opted members to the Council's committees, as set out on pages 33 to 40 of the Council agenda. Are the nominations moved? I invite the Deputy Leader to move the nominations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to move these recommendations and these nominations.
Thank you. Are the nominations seconded?
Happy to move, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Raymond. Do any of the members wish to contribute? No? Freedom of the Borough, the Duke of Lancaster's Regiment. The Council is requested to agree the revised arrangements for granting the Freedom of the Borough to the Duke of Lancaster's Regiment, following the postponement of the previous events due to COVID-19 restrictions. Are the recommendations moved? No, sorry. Right. Yeah, thank you. I invite Councillor Clive Morgan to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak.
The Duke of Lancaster Regiment and an infantry regiment, they recruit mainly from the northwest of England, with a vast amount of recruitment coming from the Wigan Borough. The regiments merged over many centuries, with the first regiment being the 4th, or the King's Own Regiment. It was raised by King Charles II in 1680. During the First World War, the regiment raised 176 battalions and were awarded 43 VCs and 1 George Cross. The regiment was last on active duty in Afghanistan in 2013, a conflict which cost the lives of 456 British personnel. We as a council and as a borough should welcome the regiment with open arms and show the regiment the honorary freedom of the borough and a warm Wigan welcome on Tuesday the 31st of May 2022. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Deputy Leader.
Beg to second, Madam Mayor.
Do any other members wish to contribute? Can I put the report to the vote? The vote is carried. Sorry, my apologies. I didn't take a vote on the previous item on the constitutional issues. The Deputy Leader moved the nominations and Councillor Raymond seconded them. Can we take a vote, please, on that report? The vote is carried. Thank you. Appointment of local authority representative governors. The Council is requested to approve the nominations for the appointment of school governors as set out on page 50 of the Council agenda. Are the nominations moved?
Beg to move, Madam Mayor.
I invite Councillor Bolton to move the recommendations.
Apologies. Beg to move, Madam Mayor.
Are the nominations seconded?
Beg to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to contribute? Can I put the report to the vote? All those in favour of accepting the nominations as set out in the report, please show. The vote is carried. Thank you. Monitoring of urgent items and exemptions from calling. Members are requested to note the key decisions that have been taken as urgent items and those that have been made exempt from calling since the last report to Council. These decisions are included on pages 53 to 66 of your agenda. Is the report moved?
The report is for information, Madam Mayor, and I move the report.
I invite the Deputy Leader to move the report. Is the report seconded?
Beg to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Reader. Members are requested to note these decisions. No vote is required on this item. Policy and budget framework items. Greater Manchester Places for Everyone. At pages 67 to 82, we have a report that seeks final approval for the publication of the Places for Everyone Publication Plan 2021 for formal consultation in August 2021 and to seek approval from the Council for the subsequent submission of the PFE plan to the Secretary of State for independent examination. The report was considered by Cabinet yesterday and approved. I invite Councillor Prescott to move the recommendation. Councillor Prescott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, the Places for Everyone plan will be a joint development plan covering strategic policies across the 9 Greater Manchester districts, including Wigan. It replaces the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework, or GMSF, which is no longer being brought forward after the withdrawal of Stockport Council in December of last year. A publication version of the plan has been prepared and subject to approvals from all 9 districts over the next 10 days, is scheduled for formal consultation for 8 weeks, starting in August, ahead of submission to the Secretary of State for independent examination early next year. Approval from the Council for consultation was granted at a special Cabinet meeting yesterday, and Council is now recommended to approve the subsequent submission of the plan for examination following this submission. Madam Mayor, the GMSF is still significant to the Places for Everyone plan as it was in such an advanced stage, and the Places for Everyone plan can build on it. Legally, the councils have been advised that joint plans can progress in the event of a district withdrawing, provided that the plan is substantially the same and the same effect on remaining districts. This is the case here, with revisions to the plan kept to a minimum to satisfy this requirement. Changes have only been made to improve clarity, correct minor typos, or as a direct result of two material matters. Firstly, the withdrawal of Stockport has to be considered, including the removal of Stockport's specific policies. And secondly, the changes to government policy or new evidence and information made available since October 2020 also have to be considered. Specifically, the plan responds to the government's pledge to level up in the north and build back better from the current pandemic. It identifies the amount of new housing and employment development that will come forward and the main areas in which they will be focused. It applies strong emphasis on maximising the contribution of brownfield land within urban areas and our town centres. It supports the delivery of infrastructure such as transport and utilities, and it supports the Clean Air Plan and helps to underpin the city region's ambition to be carbon neutral by 2038 or sooner. It also defines a new green belt boundary. The plan's spatial strategy remains about significantly focusing jobs and housing at the core of the city region within Manchester, Salford and Trafford, boosting the competitiveness of the northern districts, including Wigan, and sustaining the competitiveness of the southern districts. In relation to Wigan, there are no material changes to the content proposed from the GMSF in 2020. The 4 proposed site locations remain with the same level of net greenbelt release. The 4 site allocations are Pocketnook, Loughton, which is not a greenbelt site, for around 600 new homes and 15,000 square metres of employment floor space. M6 Junction 25, Wigan, for around 140,000 square metres of high-quality employment floor space to remain this site from Greenbelt following the grant of planning permission for this development in June. West of Gibfield, for around 500 new homes and 45,000 square metres of employment space, and north of Mossley Common for around 1,100 new homes. Madam Mayor, the plan sets annual housing requirement for 972 homes in the Borough of Wigan from 2021 to 2037. This is below the requirement of 1,000 homes set in local plan core strategy and the requirement of 1,005 per year proposed in the GMSF 2020. The reduction of the borough's greenbelt proposed is only 0.7%. That leaves 56% of the borough will remain as greenbelt. Subject to the district approvals, the formal consultation is due to start on the plan on the 9th of August and continues till the 3rd of October. The formal consultation will be almost all online, given COVID-19 risks. However, paper copies of the plan will be in Wigan libraries and site notices will be displayed at all of the 4 site allocations in the borough. There will be extensive website presence with all the background information on the GMCA's website, including the ability to submit comments on the plan online. And there will be a special site allocations focus on our own website. So following the consultation, the plan and supporting documents, all of the representations will be submitted to the Secretary of State in early 2022 for independent examination. The Council would encourage anybody with an interest to ensure that they have their say. Approval from the Council for the consultation was granted at a special meeting of Cabinet yesterday, and Council is now recommended to approve the subsequent submissions of the plan for examination following the period of consultation. Madam Mayor, I beg to move.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. Is the recommendation seconded?
Beg to second, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Leader, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right to speak until later in the debate?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Thank you. Do any other members wish to contribute? Councillor Winstanley, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Hopefully the 5 minutes starts from now, not when I set off from my seat. Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this. Well, it's finally come before us, hasn't it? It's been years in the making. It cost one cabinet member his job when it was the old GMSF. But finally now this council gets a say on it. Now, in its previous incarnation, other authorities across Greater Manchester had a debate on it, had a say on it. Every time we tried to bring it up here, the debate was shut down. So finally, we now get a say on it. We were also told every single local authority in Greater Manchester had to sign up to it. It was all 10 or nothing. And of course, as soon as it hit its first hurdle at Stockport, miraculously, it wasn't Andy Burnham's plan anymore. It could now be Agma's plan. And suddenly, you didn't need all 10. You only needed 9. Absolutely amazing. It's the biggest confidence trick in the book. Heads we win, tails you lose. Time and time again, we see it. I mean, apologies for missing Councillor Prescott's comments on the planning reforms, but if we really actually think about it, we're not really interested in consultation here anyway. We don't take notice. Every time we do a consultation, I've had several in oral, the residents tell them one thing and you just do totally something different. So consultation means absolutely nothing in this borough. So let's have a look at the plan that's before us tonight. Councillor Prescott mentioned Pocket Nook. That site isn't, the owner doesn't even want to sell the site. He's got no interest in selling the site at all, but it's in this plan. What happens if that site doesn't come forward? Where are the extra houses going? Does that put more Greenbelt at risk? So I can't actually support it. In the report that we've got before us tonight, it mentions Junction 25 of the M6. It's already been given planning permission. We know that. So that just demonstrates you do what you want, you tweak it, and we get what we don't want anyway. And, you know, some people are trying to blame the government for that. Well, sorry, it's this Labour-controlled planning permission the committee that passed it. It wasn't a Conservative government. We managed to get the decision called in. The damage had already been done. So, unfortunately, that's where we are. It's this Labour-controlled planning committee that made that decision. And I'm also intrigued about the consultation phase, which commences on the 9th of August and ends on the 3rd of October. What happens with the feedback? Once again, it's all online. It's as though we don't want people to engage with the process because everything is exclusively online. As we move forward out of this pandemic and out of lockdown, surely we should have more consultations that people can take part in that aren't exclusively online. We have got to move on. So I actually think that this whole plan has been badly handled from start to the beginning. GMSF, great places for everyone. Call it what you want. It's a flawed plan, and I, for one, cannot support this plan that's before us this evening. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Winstanley. Do any other members wish to contribute? Deputy Leader.
Councillor Winstanley gives us smoke and mirrors every time. So the number of houses, as Councillor Prescott said, are reduced down to 972 per year. Who tells us to do that? The Conservative government tells us we have to build 972 houses a year. And so we talk about COVID recovery. The need to provide land for employment and businesses to develop. And he talks about Junction 25 and the planning application that's been approved. Who approved it? The government-appointed inspector approved it. That's who approved it. And so it's appropriate that we have to have a plan, because actually The worst thing to do is to not have a plan, because to not have a plan is open season for developers to take and use any piece of land that they want and challenge for its use. So it's really appropriate that we put this plan out to consultation for that 8-week period and get the responses. Many things are said about the green belt and use of the green belt and destruction of the green belt. This plan is about protecting our natural environment. The actual use of the green belt within this borough will be less than 1% of the green belt, and will still leave 56% of the green belt 56% of the land in this borough in green belt. So yes, let's go to consultation. Let's see what happens. But actually, you have to have a plan, because not to is worse than having, not to have a plan is worse than having a plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. Councillor Prescott, do you wish to sum up? Sorry, Councillor Jones. No, actually, sorry, you didn't reserve your right to speak before. I did ask twice, did any other members wish to contribute, and you didn't let me know. Sorry, Councillor Jones. Councillor Prescott.
Very briefly, I always look forward to Michael and his speeches, because as Keith has said just before, they are always very interesting. His point of view seems to be the obverse to what actually is in fact. Planning itself is quite clearly an issue that many members, and why should they, they've not been on a planning committee, really don't have a clue on. And that's been amply demonstrated here tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. All those in favour of accepting the recommendation as set out in the report? Against? The vote is carried. Treasury Management Annual Review and Capital Programme. At pages 83 to 94, we have a report that provides members with an update on the Treasury Management activity for the Council. The report was considered by the Cabinet on the 8th of July. I invite Councillor Raymond to move the recommendation.
Back to move, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is the recommendation seconded?
Beg to second, Madam Mayor.
Do any other members wish to contribute? Thank you, Councillor Brealey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak on this item. Once again, we're here about financial reports. Consultation. When do we have them? AL. £4.9 million.
Councillor Brealey, can you stick to the item on the agenda, please? We're not discussing
It's a financial
AL.
report, isn't it?
Sorry?
Why did you keep butting in? It's a financial report. I'm speaking about finance in this area. I mean, that's what it is, a quarterly report.
A Treasury report isn't a consultation, Councillor. Can you please stick to the report?
Well, we're talking about money in the borough, aren't we?
It's not. You said a consultation. It's not a consultation. It's a Treasury management report. Can you please stick to the agenda?
All right. Okay, then. Best start in life for our children and young people. Communities that care for each other. Embrace culture, sport and heritage. A home for all. Great report. Right, second page. The need for investments. How much are we investing when we're getting a return of 0.21%, generating £305,000? How much are we investing? We can't even get a pothole filled in my ward, but yet we're investing, must be millions, to get a return of £305,000 on a very low interest, we got to be investing absolutely millions. You know, and it says here, what are the property implications in items of reductions, additions or changes to the council's assets? Hey all. The assets.
Councillor Briley, I have asked you to stick to the agenda. We're on
We're
the
talking
Treasury
about, I'm
Management
talking
position.
about assets here, Mr. Member.
We're talking about assets in general, not individual.
I'm in the
Can
report
you please
here.
stick to the report? Thank you, Councillor Brealey.
I am, Yvonne, Madam Mayor. It says here council assets. We got the facility back, but it's been stripped. Stripped of everything, because I went in the day after we got the keys back and took photographs. And everything's been stripped. I sent an email to the chief exec. Where's the police? Get the police in. Nothing's happened. £4.9 million. He broke the lease. And we're paying public money. Public money. We don't get to know about it. It's all done behind closed doors. The giving away of this facility, an investment on 199 years of £6 billion. He never replaced a window. I've got the photographs before he went in, and we've got the photographs when he left. And he's not replaced a window. They may come down here for houses like this, listed building, £1,000 a window. But £4.9 million. I'd love to see the judge's report on this, why he allowed this to happen. And we, as councillors, should be protecting the people's interests and the finances of public money. We don't do that. Behind closed door, rubber stamped the cabinet. And sometimes the Audit Committee. Well, I'm on the Audit Committee now, so we're going to find out some interesting things. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do any other members wish to contribute? Deputy Leader.
I'll leave it to Councillor Raymond to respond to that statement by Councillor Brealey, which was nothing to do with the Treasury Management Report or the capital programme.
Thank you. Councillor Raymond, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report was about managing the cash balances and our investment. It was nothing to do with public finances, so I'll leave it here. Yeah, there is nothing more to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I put the report to the vote? Those in favour? Against? The vote is carried. Councillor Winstanley wishes to make the following comment on the Cabinet decision taken at minute 4 on the gallery's progress. Councillor Winstanley.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And if it's okay with yourself, if I can sit here after I've made my comment on this, rather than having to keep walk back and two, because I've done my 10,000 steps in
That's
about
fine.
5 minutes, if that's all right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for being so gracious, Cabinet members. Thank you, Councillor Conley. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd like to comment on the plans for the galleries. And sadly, this report was taken to Cabinet as a restricted item, so we don't actually know what was in the report, but we do know what was noted as the minutes. But I wanted to really comment on the plan as a whole, because I think this is a deeply flawed plan, and I think that the way that the Council has handled this has been clouded in secrecy from day one. And I think the more that the people find out about it, the more that it's actually getting a reaction from the public out there that they don't actually like what they're seeing. Firstly, this contract should never have been given to the Beijing construction company. We should not be giving contracts from this local authority of taxpayers' money to a communist-controlled totalitarian regime. We should not be doing business with them. And I don't care about all this nonsense about, oh, they pay tax in this country and all that sort of kind of nonsense. We know why they're doing it. They're wanting to infiltrate this country as they're doing in lots of other ways, and we shouldn't be giving them any contracts. So first of all, we shouldn't have given the contract to them. However, I accept that's what we've done. Secondly, this project is designed as a city centre. And I don't believe that it's going to be high-quality housing. And we're told we're going to have a hotel in the city centre. Can I just break something to you? Wigan is not a city centre. It's a town centre. This scheme is designed as a city centre. It simply will not work. It is the worst possible thing that you could put in Wigan town centre. And when we had a first briefing on this, I described it as underwhelming. But actually, now the more I think about it, I actually think it's much worse than that. If this project goes ahead as it stands, it will destroy Wigan town centre. Over 5 years, we will simply drive people away. There will be no reason to come into Wigan town centre. We are going to have a massive building site. We're going to have nothing for people. Why would you come into Wigan town centre? There's no reason whatsoever. You might want to go to the Moon or the Wigan Central, which is great, and I would heartily recommend all those drinking establishments. But how are we going to attract people into Wigan town centre while this project is going on? We're not, because there's going to be nothing for them to shop at. There's going to be nothing to do. And we know that the market's going to be decimated. And shop owners are already told that when their lease comes up for renewal, it won't be renewed. I asked on the presentation about what the consultation had been with businesses in the town centre and the market stallholders. Well, I didn't get an answer to that. We moved on to something else quite quickly. And we can see now from the protests that we're getting that there was very little consultation, actually. So, once again, we talk about consultation. There's a golden thread running through this today. They talk about consultation on one hand, but then they don't do any consultation. So, therefore, we're left with the worst of both worlds. I don't want to give you a history lesson, but in 1257, 1258, Wigan was granted a charter which allowed the Lord of the Manor to hold a market every Monday and 2 annual fairs. So this goes to show how long a history we have as a market trading town. And if this project goes ahead, we will absolutely destroy that. I've seen nothing in these proposals. Oh, we're getting a multimedia centre. Oh, we're getting a 10-pin bowling alley. Well, we've got those anyway. What are you doing that's different? What's going to bring people into the town centre? We've got a famous name coming. That's going to come. Where is it? We've still not got it. It's all jam tomorrow. You know, it's absolutely a flawed plan. What I would urge you to do is consult residents and traders and halt this scheme. Let's really do something great with this, and then we can move on to the other districts and town centres as well. Open up the process to more scrutiny and more debate, because I don't believe that we've handled this well so far at all. And if we carry on down this road, we are going to have another massive white elephant in Wigan town centre, and we're actually going to destroy what is a great town centre. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
I invite Councillor Prescott to respond.
I told you I enjoy listening to Michael speak. He amuses me on occasions. But, Madam Mayor, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Now, I was under the assumption that Michael had made this comment basically on talk about how the decision to agree the contract was made. So what I've done is I've gone through the legal side of it, Michael. Right. So by law, that being the Local Government Act of 2000, a council has to have a committee or executive-style structure. Wigan Council some years ago opted to have an executive-style administration. The executive, or cabinet as it is better known, has the powers laid down by statute and the Constitution by virtue of Section 37 of the Local Government Act 2000. A council is required to have and maintain a constitution, as we all know. The executive has powers to make all decisions on the day-to-day running of the council, and that includes contracts that are not required by law to be made by other committees or panels of members. Regulations made under the 2000 Act Reserved decisions on quasi-judicial matters, e.g. planning, regulation and licensing, to be made by members other than the Cabinet. Lawfully, only Cabinet can have made the decision required on the galleries project. To pass the decision to Council for a debate this evening would not be in line with the legislation I have just referred to, and therefore, to discuss the matter further would be without purpose. Madam Mayor, this is the biggest transformational regeneration scheme the Council has embarked on, and the Galleries 25 team were selected as a development partners because they developed a strong master plan and demonstrated that their ability to deliver the project. BCEGI is a UK registered company, as Michael referred to. They do pay taxes here, and they reinvest profits here in the UK. BCEGI does not have any subsidiaries in, forgive my pronunciation, Xinjiang, and their construction practices, employee welfare, along with their systems, policies and procedures stand up to scrutiny. Madam Mayor, I would inform members that Wigan Council is not the only local authority working with BCEGI. They also have a joint venture partnership with our neighbouring authority, that's Bolton, which, as I'm sure most of us will know, is a Tory-controlled council. And at Manchester Airport Group, they also are working with Middlesbrough Council on their Boho X project. I would also underline that the Conservative government conducts billions of pounds worth of trade with China annually. Totally without comment or criticism from the Conservative group here in Wigan. Madam Mayor, I cast no aspersions, but I merely ask members to consider those facts and make of them what they will. So clearly, Madam Mayor, the Council's response to the request to discuss the matter further to be debated in this chamber, for the reasons I have given above, must be no. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. Councillor Winstanley wishes to make the following comment and question on the Cabinet. Sorry, can you repeat yourself, Councillor? You raised your hand. Did you want a point of order? No, sorry. Councillor Winstanley wishes to make the following comment and question on the Cabinet decision taken at minute 9 on the Greater Manchester Clean Air Final Plan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm not quite sure if it's Councillor Prescott back again in a second. Oh, it's Councillor Cunliffe. Oh, delighted. Right. It's not a comment, it's just two questions, so I'm sure you'll be able to answer them, Councillor Cunliffe, without deviation, hesitation or repetition. So I would like to ask the Deputy Leader if he can confirm that the camera network that's been installed for the Clean Air Zone scheme will not be used for any other scheme once an improvement in air quality has been achieved. And can he also give a categorical assurance that the camera infrastructure will never be used to impose a congestion charge across Greater Manchester? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I invite the Deputy Leader to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to respond to Councillor Winstanley's very early re-election campaign. Obviously worried about oral. So, the automatic number plate recognition camera system is being installed to enforce a clean air zone. Let me just remind you who has insisted that we implement a clean air zone. The Conservative government. So we're doing it in response to the Conservative government. And actually, it's one thing that I would support the Conservative government on doing, because 40,000 people a year in this country die a premature death because of air quality. And hundreds of thousands of people's health is impacted by poor air quality. So I actually support the need to develop a clean air zone. And it's anticipated that the cameras will remain in operation until at least the second half of 2026. in accordance with government advice, Tory government advice, if demonstrated by 2 years consecutive compliance with the legal limit for nitrogen dioxide have been met. So we have to show 2 years continually where those legal limits have been met, and there is confidence that compliance will continue to be maintained, and subject to GM government processes, the local authority, us, Wigan, will notify the Secretary of State of their intention to revoke the charging scheme order and decommission the GM-controlled air zone, clean air zone. So it's very much in the hands of the Tory government as it currently stands. I'd underline, for the avoidance of doubt, that the installation of the cameras and associated monitoring is solely for improving air quality, and that the clean air zone is not a congestion charge. There is no intention to introduce a congestion charge. Councillor Winstanley, when he comes up here, he's like a blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat that's not there. There is no intention to have a congestion zone. And furthermore, I can confirm that there are no plans to utilise the AMPR and monitoring network after decommissioning of the clean air zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. Councillor Winstanley wishes to ask the following urgent question, and he has my permission to do so. Councillor Winstanley.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Doesn't mean that cat's not there, though, does it? Just because I can't find it. Just so members are aware of this, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, who is the Police and Crime Commissioner, instigated a report by PwC on the failings of GMP and its catastrophic failure, it's in special measures. Now, the reason I'm giving this preamble is because this didn't really feature much in Andy Burnham's re-election campaign, well, certainly not on his leaflets anyway. So he commissioned a report that's cost us, the taxpayer, thousands and thousands of pounds. It was ready to be published in April, but why wouldn't he publish it? Well, because there was an election going on. No, that's cynical of me, because the new Chief Constable had to have time to read it and digest it. Well, I'm sure he must have indigestion now. He's been digesting it that long, because we've still not got it. So what I would like to ask Councillor Anderson, in his role as our representative on the Police and Crime Panel, what measures is he taking to ensure that this report that was commissioned by the Mayor of GM, that it's published to full scrutiny across the conurbation of Greater Manchester, and we can start to hold the police to account for its dismal failure under Andy Burnham's leadership. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll go back and sit down over there.
I invite Councillor Anderson to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to obviously thank Councillor Winstanley for his question. I think I first of all need to remind him that Andy Burnham won every electoral ward in Greater Manchester earlier this year. That includes his own ward of Orrell. He received 69% of the vote, unprecedented, so he does have a vote of confidence of the people of Greater Manchester. Just to reassure him, I have received the assurance from the Deputy Mayor for Police and Crime, Beverley Hughes, that the Pricewaterhouse report will be published at the appropriate time. The report was commissioned to test the validity, scope and recommendations of the GMP Strategy and Improvement Plan. The intention of this commission was that it would be a short but thorough piece of work that would help articulate the required actions of the new Chief Constable. I think I also need to remind Councillor Winstanley that GMP, along with other public services, have been decimated by 11 years of Tory austerity. They've lost 2,000 staff and 1,000 support staff. And don't forget that, Councillor Winstanley. On the thank you. In conclusion, I can assure you that the Police and Crime Panel, including myself, will be scrutinising the improvement plan very closely over the coming months. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. For information, the motion on Bexhill Drive was withdrawn by Councillor Vickers and will not be considered today. Yes, Councillor. It was Councillor Vickers' decision to withdraw the motion, so it won't be coming before us today. Councillor Brealey, there's nothing else to comment on. The motion has been withdrawn. Thank you. Notice of motion. A motion has been submitted by Councillor Gerard, which is set out on page 101 of the agenda. Councillor Gerard, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On taking the time to read this motion on what we believe to be a very important motion for this council to consider and hopefully pursue, which as follows. We are now looking at a new post-COVID reality, a changing world and way of life. And now is the right time to do a full review of the council's core strategy and make it fit for purpose for the new post-COVID era. Therefore, we are asking the Council to review the Council's core strategy as soon as possible. We have seen over the last 17 months the world in which we know change forever. This Council needs to adapt to this new world and have a core strategy and vision that is fit for purpose. Prior to our COVID, our core strategy was showing signs of being out of date, and as I'm sure many members in this room will concur, that we have been told off various officers in various committees that various points of the strategy were out of date, which draws me to the only possible conclusion, which is that we need to thoroughly rethink our strategy now more than ever. Currently, our spatial vision in what we wanted the borough to be like in 2026. However, the pandemic has put a big dent in that progress and should never have changed most members' views of what we want this borough to be like, not just in 2026, but now. In Chapter 5, although the sentiment is good on various issues of it are now out of date, and some just seem to look good on paper, but shamefully, in reality, have never even been considered. Ensuring that only Wigan, Leigh and Ashton are vibrant town centres, as stated currently, and that's not changed in the monitoring reports, is out of date and out of touch. We must grow this borough as one, not fractured. Towns such as Atherton, Tilsley, Inley require investment, not just talk, as it currently seems to be. Their local communities rely on having town centres that provide good quality community shops and increase employment. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, it was quite evident how vital having shops, basic shops such as butchers, greengrocers and bakeries were to their local community and how they adapted. And now, they were there to support the local community in their hour of need. And now we need to support them more than ever, just as they supported us. Further reading of the spatial vision states that we must improve ease and attractiveness. Yet here we are still gridlocked, and most towns and the entrance to the borough run down and looking unloved. It also states, improve the quality of our built-in natural environment. Yet we are now building heavily on greenbelt land. No matter on previous agenda items tonight, we are building heavily on greenbelt land where we shouldn't be building. And in some cases, encouraging it without the inclusion of social and affordable housing. It also states that new development should be a catalyst to uplift communities, yet 106 money and new bonuses have not been spent, currently £10 million, on projects where development is not taking place, which would help suffering from economic and environmental deprivation. Of course, I could go on with the fragilities of this current strategy and its vision, as well as pointing out outdated policies on the environment and the missed opportunities on tackling the ASB.
inequality and deprivation. However, that would take me well over my allotted time, so I'll get to the point. We have learned that the pandemic has affected some groups and communities much more seriously than others. The elderly, the low-paid and the already disadvantaged. It is clear that the virus and the response to it has been exacerbated the disadvantaged people we're already experiencing, which is quantified by the levels of support in certain areas. We as a council and other fantastic organisations and volunteers have given support too. This is why we need a vision that has community, togetherness and fairness and equality at its heart. To grow as a borough, we need to steer away from this Wigan-centric ideology, which is leaving areas such as Atherton, Tilsley, Inley and to some extent Lee further and further behind. We need a vision that will provide for all ages, all backgrounds and be a catalyst for the next couple of decades to put this borough at the forefront of social inclusion, healthier communities and increase employment opportunities for local people and allow local businesses to grow. I was looking forward to a debate, but I see I've been shut down on the debate issue, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Is the motion seconded? Councillor Watson, do you wish to speak on the motion? Yeah, can I just call on the Deputy Leader at this moment in time? Oh, does he have to speak first? Sorry, Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd just like to build on what my good friend and colleague, Councillor Gerard, has stated and emphasise a few points. First of all, on housing. This outdated strategy contradicts the current climate emergency as it highlights that most of our towns are separated by greenbelt, but there is also significant areas of land safeguarded for potential future deployment. Yet, unfortunately, most of this land has already been built on. It also states that we do not make most of the significant opportunities that the countryside of the borough and the Green Heart area in particular offers for recreation, tourism, environmental enhancement and wildlife promotion, such as the newts at Allocation 45, the land west of Gibfield, in the Places for Everyone. I have genuine concerns that if we keep building at the rate that we're going, that there'll be no greenbelt left for future generations. And all of our towns will merge into one combined concrete jungle, losing our individual identities in the process. Transport. In 2013, it was identified that congestion and slow journey times were major issues within the borough. Today, we have an increased traffic flow and congestion issues due to rapid population growth and the growing number of cars per household. Furthermore, we have an under-par, unreliable, inaccessible and overpriced public transport system which deconflicts with the Greater Manchester Clean Air Plan, which forces residents to use their cars to commute. We simply cannot keep building more houses without prior investment into the transport infrastructure, and this needs to be in place before any future new developments. Commercial. The Retail and Leisure Study update in 2009 identified the capacity for additional retail floor space in future years in the borough's larger town centres, particularly Wigan and Lee. Then, concurrently, the Greater Manchester Town Centre study concluded that in the past 2 decades, centres such as Wigan have been falling short of their economic contribution to the region. You simply cannot build retail parks in a close proximity to town centres and call this strategy, then wonder why our main town centres are failing economically. Then we must consider how shopping habits have evolved, especially with the preference for retail parks and online shopping such as Amazon. Additionally, this questions the planned investment in the galleries and its long-term strategic value and economic cost to the taxpayer. Health and recreation. Our current core strategy states that its aim is to improve the health and life expectancy of our residents, particularly in the most deprived neighbourhoods, to improve the environment where people live and to improve the accessibility to quality healthcare. In the last 18 months, residents have been unable to see their GP face-to-face, and the future of our healthcare system seems to be following this trend and going in this direction. In the COVID-19 world that we live in, we must prioritise our residents' health, social and domestic needs. And this begins with a revised core strategy that incorporates healthcare post-COVID-19. To sum up then, throughout this unprecedented pandemic, it was our individual communities that have shone, and we must reward them by getting back to basics, prioritising funds and resources to the Environmental Directorate, healthcare, protecting our green spaces, and investing in all of our communities rather than just the two. We need to invest in our borough as a whole, as we are more than our two main district centres, and this would raise the social economic status of the many, not just a few. So I don't think it's going to go to debate, so I look forward to getting the feedback from the Cabinet, and we need a competent core strategy that reflects this. So thank you for allowing me to speak, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Can I call on the Deputy Leader? Is it a point of order, Councillor Brealey? The Deputy Leader will explain to you now, Councillor Brealey. The Deputy Leader will explain to you now. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Walker. That's fine. Yes, please. Can you go to the speaking out order, please?
Thank you. So the move of the resolution suggested that instead of spending our Section 106 money in the air... Sorry, no, this is a point of order because the suggestion, what is being moved is illegal. Because I'd love to spend our 106 money in poor areas, but Section 106 money, whether we like it or not,
Councillor
is
Walker,
tied to the areas.
Councillor Walker, we're not debating the issue. You asked for a point of order. Can you sit down, please? Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Gerard, for the motion, because I do think it is really important. I mean, I certainly think, you know, we're talking about post-COVID recovery, and actually at the present time, we're in mid-COVID because our infection rates are the highest they've been all through this, and possibly due to Freedom Day on Monday are likely to increase. But it's really important, not just in terms of the core strategy, but how we respond to the changing world. So I do think it's really important. And why I'm asking for this to be referred to Cabinet is, in order that Cabinet can start the process of looking at how we respond as a council, and to bring that back to a future meeting where we can have that debate, but have it with some basis on which to debate the issues. So I'm referring it to Cabinet to consider, with the intention that it returns to a future council meeting for us to discuss all these things. And it may well include not just the core strategy, but our whole recovery plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. As the motion is being referred to Cabinet, then there will be no further debate on this motion. Councillor Brealey, I'll take your point of order. Councillor Brealey will follow the Cabinet and Council process, so we can't put a time on it. Councillor Jones, did you have a point of order?
My point of order is I feel that constitutional rules may well have been broke. Reading the motion, the councillors here have asked for a review. They've not actually asked for the council to implement anything. So I can't see why that couldn't have gone to debate. Now, second of all, and I could be mistaken, I apologise if so, wouldn't it then be the job of the Cabinet to put a recommendation in and us to vote on whether we accept Keith's proposal or whether we actually vote on Councillor Gerard's motion? That, from what I heard off Councillor Cunliffe then, that sounded more like an amendment to the motion. So like I say, I'm not a solicitor, I may be wrong. It just feels to me like that type of motion, we could have had a debate on whether it was reviewed and it could have been voted against, but to simply shut it down, I feel, doesn't give a good impression. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
We'll take some legal advice on this, Councillor Jones. Thank you.
Sorry, in accordance with Rule 9.7, it was decided, and legal advice was sought, that this motion should be referred to Cabinet in accordance with the procedure, and that's the decision that's been made.
Thank you. A motion has been submitted by Councillor Bullen, which is set out on page 101 of the agenda. Councillor Bullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for inviting me to speak. Good evening, everyone. The government published its plans for education recovery after the pandemic on the 2nd of June this year. An expert view was sought from a highly respected educationalist recruited by the government to advise on a recovery programme for our schools. Sir Kevin Collins recommended a sum of £15 billion was required to fund catch-up programmes in schools, which would enable children and young people to regain the academic work they had missed and also support their mental health and well-being with other activities. The government's current, the government's current offer of £1.4 billion falls far short of this recommendation and is inadequate. The Education Policy Institute has calculated that the £1.4 billion on offer amounts to £50 per pupil per year. Less than £1 a week for a catch-up programme? This contrasts with, for example, the 1,600 per pupil in the USA and the 2,500 per pupil in the Netherlands, which is being provided for schools by their governments. Our schools want to do their very best for pupils, and they do know how to provide quality catch-up programmes. They understand the needs of pupils, both in terms of academic work and in supporting their social development and emotional well-being after all the days lost in school. But without adequate resources, the impact will be limited, and a lost generation of young people looks increasingly likely. You may remember that Sir Kevin Collins resigned on this very issue because there are no quick or cheap fixes if we are to build back better from the pandemic and have an education system that supports high standards and strong mental health for everyone. Madam Mayor, separately, and this is the second point in the motion, the Department for Education has changed the census date used to calculate pupil premium funding for the most disadvantaged pupils. This means that £150 million is being taken away from young people and schools most in need across the country. The pupil premium funding amounts to £1,345 for a primary school child and £955 for secondary children who are eligible, so it's not to be sniffed at. The consensus collection date has always been in January, in order to put the money into school budgets for the following year. However, the government changed this to an October date last year, This means that any pupil becoming eligible during the pandemic period from October last year to the beginning of this year will not receive any additional funding until next year. For Wigan schools, this means a loss of more than £500,000, and it is schools in our most disadvantaged areas that are most affected. This is funding which can be used to support basic skills, provide opportunity for enrichment activities to build confidence, or provide for extra staffing and resources. As we know, Madam Mayor, the pandemic has left many facing financial difficulty, with lots of families losing income and struggling to put food on the table. The numbers claiming free school meals has gone up significantly, and the pupil premium funding which it attracts is vital to our schools. Our children need and deserve this additional support. This move does not reflect the government's so-called levelling up agenda and will only widen the gap between the deprived and more affluent areas. 35,000, that's 46% of our children and young people live in the top 30% deprived areas for Wigan. This is a significant number of pupils affected by this change in calculation. We are not going to level up the country on the backs of the poorest children. Beg to move, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bullen. Is the motion seconded? Councillor Sweeney, do you wish to speak on the motion or reserve your right to speak until later in the debate? Thank you, Councillor Sweeney.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on and second this motion. I think all members here will agree that there's been no question that the children and young people's education has been significantly affected by the pandemic, both in terms of the spending long periods out of school, major disruption to their learning that subsequently happened, and of course the lack of social interaction with their peers and being unable to take part in sport and other recreational activities that our young people hold so dear. The government's current offer for catch-up funding falls far short of what is needed to provide the appropriate support and teaching and learning programmes to enable our pupils and young people to regain what they have lost as a result of the impact of the pandemic. School leaders feel that they are faced with an impossible task as resources are spread too thinly for what is an enormous issue to tackle. The uphill task of our schools to enable and support the education of our children and young people post-pandemic is being seriously hampered by the government's action in commissioning expert advice and then ignoring it. The second part of Councillor Bullen's motion talked about the changes to pupil premium, and it really does defy logic and understanding that when there is a secure and a well-established means of providing schools and identifying those most disadvantaged pupils with an extra premium of funding to support their education, the funding is actually cut at a time when it is needed more than ever. This really does fly in the face of the government's so-called levelling up agenda, when we know that the poorest families in our communities are the hardest hit. We need to lobby the government so that they value and invest in all our children. Our children have a right to be supported to learn, succeed, and go on to have the bright futures that we all want them to have. This motion calls on the government to scale up its ambition for our children and young people and give our education system the resources needed to ensure that no child is left behind. I urge Council to support the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Do any members wish to speak on the motion? I think Councillor Jones was first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is my first meeting, so let me welcome you to being our Mayor. Councillor Bullen, I want to support this motion. When I came here tonight, I was going to ask more questions on the figures which both of you have give. So I just could, if you could, clarify one thing for me if you do come back. Are we saying that the Wigan schools will be £50 million worse off? If not, could you, maybe it might just be me, could you make it a bit more clear how much our children in Wigan are losing and what exactly we're going to ask the Chief Executive to write to ask for? Because I guess if we ask the question, we need more resources for our children, I guess it doesn't really give Alison much to go with. I really, like I say, I want to support this motion. I just want a little bit more meat on the bone. So if we're going to ask our Chief Executive, we've got her reputation as well, to write on behalf of full council, can we just be clear before this motion ends that what exactly we're asking for? And I'll more than happily, if our children are losing £1 in Wigan, I'll more than happily support your motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Brealey. Councillor Brealey, can you get a microphone, please, or go to the speaker's stand?
Thank you, Mrs. Madam Mayor. Yeah. I heard a quotation of £500,000. Am I wrong? Is it 50 million like Councillor Jones says? Is there a shortfall of 50 million? Right, so, but you know, why do we keep going to government when we've got all this reserves?
Councillor Brealey, can you please stick to the motion? Thank you.
I'm just asking a question. Forget it. You know, this is what you do all the time. We're asking questions about what goes on in Wigan.
Sit down, Councillor Brealey, please. Councillor Bullen, I now invite you to sum up on the motion.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Jones and Councillor Brealey for their comments. Just to be clear, the figures that I gave this evening were to suggest that 150 million has been taken away across the country because of this change in calculation of the pupil premium funding. But then I did go on to say that for Wigan schools, this is actually a loss of £500,000. But obviously the schools that are in the most disadvantaged areas, because they've got greater number of children who would be claiming for free school meals, the loss in those schools is greater. Okay? So just in summing up, Madam Mayor, I think it's pretty obvious really that the catch-up funding, this catch-up funding is inadequate. The government's own advisor has said so, and actually he was joined by a significant number of Tory MPs. The pupil premium calculation, on the other hand, appears to be a cynical attempt to reduce funding for pupils who need most support. As Councillor Sweeney said, the system is there, it's set up. Children who are families who are claiming free school meals, the children need this extra support. And the pupil premium is a great way of identifying that need and then providing the extra resource in school. But as I said, during this period, because they've altered the calculation date and they've put it back, there are a good few months of children who will have been claiming, more than ever actually, as we know, through the pandemic. They will have been claiming free school meals. They will have been getting a free school meal, I hasten to add, It's not about food as such. It's about the extra pupil premium funding that free school meal attracts. And it's money that goes to the school per head of that pupil. And it can be used for all the extra resources, extra teaching, building up the basic skills, everything that has been missed for our children because, of course, they have been out of school for so very, very long. And I think neither of these two actions by this government supports a fair levelling up policy, and it's in danger of placing some of our poorest children way behind their better off peers. In our Wigan priority areas for recovery, one of our most important priority areas is to ensure that all our children and young people return to and thrive in their education and training. And for this reason, I'm going to ask you to support the motion. And I've just remembered, forgive me, Madam Mayor, that Councillor Jones asked another question, if there's time, just to clarify that in terms of the motion and what we're actually asking, we're asking that this council resolves to lobby the government to value and invest in all our children so that they're supported to learn, succeed and go on to have bright futures. And so we're requesting that the Chief Executive write to the Secretary of State for Education to call on the government to scale up its ambition for our children and young people and to give our education system the necessary resources to ensure that no child is left behind. I hope you can support this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bullen. Can I put the motion to the vote? Anybody against? The vote is carried. Thank you. Thank you, and that concludes the business for this evening. Have a safe journey home and stay safe, everyone. Thank you.